So this is a special episode that I've been wanting to do for a while, just in time for Father's Day. For people that don't recognize, I'm not in my normal setting here in the Transformer room. This is back at my parents' house that I used to live in many, many years ago. And for old-time fans of ProtoRetro, you might even recognize this old wood grain here in the background. This used to be my bedroom. But I moved out many, many, many years ago, and a certain someone that I used to live with many years ago happily took over this space and turned it into his glorious collection, although I used to live next to another collection that I used to share space with him. So today's episode is going to be featuring the guy who pretty much led into my craziness of collecting, my father, and his crazy collection. A lot of people have always asked me where I got my knowledge from and how I learned how to be such a crazy collector and everything today. Well, you're going to learn all that here today. So this is Protoman, and this is ProtoRetro, so let's do this.
ProtoRetro.
So I'm here today with my father, Jacques Arsenault. Of course, everyone knows me as Daniel Arsenault or Protoman, but this is where it all started, essentially. And we're inside now, the space that he took over as well as all the other space, his collection now. So my father collects two things specifically. He collects Dinky cars, Dinky diecast, and vinyl records. So we're going to start first with the Dinky stuff. So what is Dinky exactly for people who don't know?
Dinky toy was produced by a company called Meccano in Liverpool, England. Started in 1933 or 31, something like this. And they produced over until the late 70s, when they ceased production, they produced about 1,000 toys. And when I was a kid, I used to work in a drugstore for 4 years, and I had a very good income as a kid. And at least once a month or once every 2 weeks, I used to buy myself a Dinky, and I always kept them in nice condition with the box. And later on in my life, I started seeing them in garage sale and antique stores. I was wondering why in antique stores. I had learned they ceased production in the late 70s. And
so when did you actually, like, what age did you first start collecting, would you say, Dinky?
Oh, God. A very long time ago. I was 10 years old, 8 years old maybe.
Okay. And what was your first Dinky? What was the first one you ever bought?
My first Dinky was Lincoln Continental.
There you go.
Lincoln Continental 1963.
And was there a specific reason why you wanted to pick that one up first as a kid?
No.
Or you just wanted
that somebody in the
That's just how it is
my
sometimes.
small town had one, and everybody. It was a luxury car.
That happens a lot. Sometimes our first thing isn't something we wanted. It's just that's how it works.
Yes, it was for Ford company. It was produced by Ford company. It was a competitor to Cadillac.
Do you remember how much you paid for that back then?
Around $2. I think it was.
What year would you say that was? Oh. Just for inflation's sake.
Oh, 63, 64.
Okay. Just to get an idea. Well, definitely probably increased in value. So what would you say out of everything that you have in terms of Dinky, would you say is probably your most favorite piece? Or, well, it's usually hard to pick just one, but what would you say, like, your favorite or top three favorites?
Well, in the beginning I bought only cars, then I got really interested in trucks. And I really love the color scheme on this. And now it's the advertising. A lot of it have nice logo on it, like those here.
Times,
and this one has a little feature here that you turn, and it has pallets inside.
Oh, it has little pallets for the stock that it would move.
Yeah, it
interesting.
Just pushes the little gizmo here. Interesting, like you said.
Dinky, obviously, it's a very, very old collecting kind of thing. What would you say right now is the current market of Dinky, or the future of it, or even the current collecting community of it? How strong is it today, would you say?
Well, like any toy collectibles, it's decreasing in collectivity and value, but there's still a strong core collectors. If you go on eBay, let's say, you'll see there's always at least 5,000 Dinkies for sale. There's a few of them extremely rare. One mainly that was produced only in Canada, which was an airplane, Avro airplane that was produced in the 50s. Then they didn't produce that many. It's worth up to $2,000.
Well, there you go. Okay, so what we're going to go to next is now we're going to venture outside of the diecast cars into now the world of music. Now we're in the elusive record cave, which was always next to my room, banging out the Beatles and Rolling Stones and whatever else he was listening to at the time, long before I was born. So in this room, I always brag about how my Transformer collection has about 12,000 figures and items, but the record room definitely has way more than that. This room is a lot to take in. It's definitely, I mean, if you could even put a number to how many records are in here, would you be able to?
Yes, I have about 7,000 LPs, 2,000 singles. Singles are...
Yeah, might as well show what the difference...
Singles are...
Show the difference here.
The small records.
The small ones are singles, LPs are the larger ones. Well, that's what we'll probably get into. So what is, for the people who don't know, because I doing Transformer reviews, I encounter people who don't know what a tape cassette is because of Soundwave, elusive tape cassette. But what is a vinyl record?
A vinyl record is a blob of plastic that's been pressed with grooves in it that you can play on a turntable. So this is an old 78. That's from the 30s. That's from the 30s. The 30s to the late 50s. Yeah, they were still producing them. This is the famous Sun label. Blue Suede Shoes by Carl Perkins. Was quite a hit for him, but Elvis made it a bigger.
Yeah, there you go.
Famous. I collect also, which is very collectible. You probably don't know the group Still Life, but the famous Vertigo record label. Vertigo.
When it spins.
The swirls. It gives a 3D effect when it spins on the turntable.
So, when did you first start collecting records?
The early 60s. My first record was...
Yeah, what was your first record?
My first record was...
Of course.
The very first Beatle record.
Of course.
Beatlemania.
Now, how much do you think you paid for that back then?
$2.98.
Ah, not bad, okay. And what year was that? That was...
64.
Okay. And what would you say is your favorite record? Again, that's another loaded question.
Nah.
I know which is my favorite. I know which is my favorite.
Too many of them.
I'll get into which one was my favorite. As a kid, where is it?
What? Here?
My favorite, two things in this room as a child. My favorite CD, because he was also one of the very first early adopters of CD. My very favorite CD was, he had the Batman Bruce Timm soundtrack in a tin, and I loved this thing. It was really cool, and it was a CD, and we used to listen to Bat Dance all the time in this room, and when we used to live upstairs. So that was something. But the Alice Cooper record, though, specifically. So when I was a kid, I used to love this record just because it was so weird. So it was
a disc.
So Alice Cooper had, what was the name of this album?
School's Out.
School's Out for the Summer, which is a famous song that a lot of people know even outside of that generation. So it was a desk. The cover was a desk, and it actually had on the back.
Could transform.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, it turns into a desk, like you could. And what is cool is, like a desk, it opens, but was, again, I was a weird kid. The record had a pair of panties on them that you could take off. So it was this crazy record, and it was the song "School's Out for Summer." So we used to play it when school would finish in grade school, and I remember as a kid always loving that because it was just this really cool, like, record. and just a unique use of the packaging that in a lot of ways transforms. So that was a favorite of mine personally. But like
personally, I collect the history of recorded music, starting with the inventor of the gramophone, Thomas Edison, and the first format in which you could get music was in a cylinder that you played on a gramophone before the flat records.
And what year is that?
From 1898.
1898.
1898 to...
How many of those? You have quite a few of those.
A few of those in different format. The first few of those were in made out of wax.
And those were the crank ones, right?
The crank gramophone before electricity.
Way before electricity existed.
And they were made of wax, so you played them a few times, and that was it. That's before vinyl, before they put music onto plastic.
So also what I wanted to ask is, what do you think is the future of vinyl? I know that it kind of has a resurgence a little bit now.
But never what it was before.
Obviously, but
they used to sell millions and millions every year.
Obviously, because the media formats have changed.
Obviously, the old golden age of vinyl is gone, but there's sort of a resurgence of it. People want to feel the
tangibility.
The tactability of holding a vinyl album and reading all of the lyrics and who's the producer, who plays with who plays with.
Well, I know that a lot of times today.
There's another nice one from the 50s. Little Richard.
I know that a lot of guys today, a lot of modern music, specifically rap music and hip hop, and even some 80s music that has had resurgence because of its pop culture stuff, has had represses of stuff.
Yes.
And one of the last things I want to ask, and again, it's another, is what would you say is your favorite group of all time, or musician of all time, or singer? If you had to put it down to one, I could do that with Transformers.
I can't do it to one. Hey, Beatles, the Stones, Pink Floyd.
Okay, so those three at least.
Those three, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any specific reason why those three?
The quality of the music,
okay.
the invention.
Not a one-hit wonder.
The creativity. No, their overall career. Yeah. The creativity of it.
That's the unfortunate thing of being an 80s fan. Most of it is one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
So
there's no creativity today. It's all bing, bing, bing.
You're going to hear from it when you're talking about modern music. But okay. So
there's some good stuff, but you have to really look for it.
You have to dig for it.
There's a Montreal group called Half Moon Run. Extremely talented.
Okay.
Extremely talented. I bought the vinyl, actually, of their album.
There you go, a modern press.
More or less. 3 years ago.
So that's more or less it. It's a lot of the craziness that exists. I'm going to obviously try to get this up in time for Father's Day. But yeah, so this is where I came from, and you'll get a pretty good idea of of the scope and why my Transformer collection is so dense and crazy. It's because I was the fruits of that craziness long before even I was born. The craziness existed, so
it's all my fault.
Yeah, it's all his fault. So if anyone thinks I'm crazy, it's because of him. So this is Protoman of ProtoRetro with Jacques, or the Vinyl King.
No, Jumping Jacques Flash.
That's actually a screen name, Jumping Jack Flash, or Jacques Flash. So this is Protoman of ProtoRetro, and this has been a review of our collections.
The Record King.
Hey guys, like what you saw? Want to see more? Then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe this video. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like the Facebook group for all the latest updates from Protoman of ProtoRetro.